Lizzie here in lane 4. I'll play the whole race straight through and then we'll talk about a few things afterwards. Okay, final time 2097. I believe this is the best midseason time we've had. It's also a second drop from the time you went about 3 weeks ago. Split wise, you're 29-0, 32-2, 37-1, and 31-3. Comparing it to the time we went to 10-7 a couple weeks ago, really the big difference was breaststroke, which is good because if that's your strength, don't want it to be your weak link. And this is you just make an improvement there straight up. The rest of it stays the same. Cool with all that. Looking at some of the technical aspects of the race here. Wait. Yeah, I'm sure I've said this before, but I like for your feet to be set where you want them before the starter has you take your mark. So here you make an adjustment with your foot. I'd rather you just have your foot there beforehand. Buzzer goes off. You do a nice job initiating the blocks with your arms and legs. First things to react. You just barely recover the arms to get into streamline, but you do get it there, and generally a very clean entry. Into butterfly. Nice tempo, good hand placement. If you look here, notice where your arms are hitting the water. It's a very good entry point, and you maintain that for the entire 50. You also do a nice job rolling the hips with each stroke here. The thing for you to think about in your butterfly, I think, is if you notice, you have a pretty minimal splash, which is good, but I want you to notice the direction of the splash. So as your arms come crashing in, the direction of the splash is a little bit crossing, like your arms are hitting sideways with a lot of force, and they're not hitting, going in the forward direction, which is really tricky in butterfly, of course, because naturally your arms are coming over and around and hitting the water coming from right to left, left to right, and that's what's causing the splash to go that way. So what you have to do, and this obviously requires a lot of shoulder strength, is when you're coming over, it's like really a placement of the arms up front, and you're driving with the shoulders and the chest forward as you're pressing the chest down, thinking about forehead down, hips up, and there's going to be a splash, right? Like you have a good compact splash, but it's going to exist regardless. But you want that splash to really be more directed forward as opposed to crossing sideways. Coming into the backstroke split, we'll just fast forward where you can get a good angle. I want you to notice your right arm here. So here your right arm's taking the stroke. Notice it's kind of entering at this awkward angle, and you're starting to pull immediately, and then you end up pulling really shallow water. I know this isn't like the greatest angle, but you notice here like there's some splash going on with your pull as you're coming by your rib area. And you also circle swam this 50 back, so you notice here you're on the left side of the lane line, and then you're going to come back on the other left side of the lane line. Yeah, you come up on this side, and then notice how shallow this arm is on the pool. You're right at the surface. We got to make sure we're getting the good rotation and pulling that deep water. Deep water doesn't mean that you do the whole figure eight thing where like you draw an S kind of shape, whatever you want to call it, with your arm. It's still got to be that fundamental pulling motion, but you just got to get it deeper so we're not wasting energy pulling that top water. All right, moving along to breaststroke. Okay, so like I told you at the meet, I'm getting less concerned about the arm positioning here at the end of the sweep out. Excuse me, the sweep in. Um, what I want you to start to think about. I mean, it's always you have to keep it in mind. Like eventually, you're gonna have to make micro adjustments there, but I think that's less detrimental to your stroke than right now what your hips are doing. So you notice here at the end of the pool, you really submerge yourself underwater. Luckily, you're a very smooth and efficient swimmer here, but the hips and really the back are never exposed. They're never at the very, very surface of the water. Like remember back to your butterfly, at the end of each stroke, you could see your hips and bottom popping up, but here it's not quite the same, and it really should be almost identical. And if you like took a square on that area, that part would look identical. So same thing going this way, you can kind of get a better angle of the back. At the end of the extension here, you're just kind of dipping in the water. It's a very small difference. Good news is being in the suit's going to allow you to be more buoyant, and obviously being rested and everything's going to have a little more. You're going to have a little more energy, but we want to be able to maintain that throughout the breaststroke. And then coming here into the freestyle leg, nice strong finish. Looking at the left arm especially, and this is something I talk to you about like every other week at practice. But notice where the left hand's coming in front of the forehead, and then you have to correct by pushing out the hand, almost like a sculling motion out towards your shoulder to correct, and then you're pulling from there. But really what you're doing is you enter in a bad position, and then you correct to not a great position, and then you're pulling from there, as opposed to just setting up right where you want to be. In that time you spent sculling, you can really set and glide forward and pull from there instead of coming in too far narrow, pushing out maybe a little bit outside shoulder width, and then pulling from there. All in all, good race. I think we're in a really great position for regionals on Thursday. Nice job.